Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. Oh, my dear ones, I have a very, very interesting new guest today to share with you. Sanar, and I think that's how we pronounce her name, but she'll correct me if I'm wrong. Sanar Alixandyr is our guest today. She's an empowerment coach with a degree in education and a diverse background spanning education, entertainment, and holistic healing, and a very interesting childhood that messed her up. So she had to fix herself, and in doing that, she gave herself the ability to help a lot of other people. Over the past 30 years, she has supported herself as a professional musician, director, composer, teacher, and actress. And her journey took a transformative turn when she embarked on the path of, as I say, really healing herself from PTSD and overcoming depression, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, and other stuff. This experience led her to create what she calls Beautiful, which is an acclaimed one-woman musical drama that documents her own healing journey. Sanar then turned her newly empowered focus to the healing arts, and she became proficient in various cognitive, energetic, and holistic therapies. And her current focus is on quantum field energetic transformation, which is her belief. It's her belief that this new wave in providing a quantum leap in personal healing and in manifestation power is the future. Her passion is being of service to the greater vision of the transformation and evolution of women in the world, and Lord knows we need that. And toward that end, she offers her own story in her excellent and very personal book, which I've just finished reading. It's called Becoming Sanar, From Shadow to Light, A Journey of Self-Discovery. This book reads like a novel. I've got to tell you, many, many books that people write about their own healing are hard to read just because they're kind of boring. How do I put this? When people are writing about themselves, they don't go deeply enough and they don't make them interesting enough. I mean, who wants to read about somebody's own life? But this reads like a novel. It's as if she invented it, except she's just gone deeply enough into herself to really make it a book that's gripping. It's like a novel. She considers her book to be an inspirational and healing experience for anyone who is ready to let go of their own personal past. And really, that's exactly what it is. I think it really can be helpful to a lot of people. And so that's why I did read the whole thing. It's beautiful. I couldn't put it down. And I'm happy to now share with you through Sanar her own book. Welcome, Sanar. It's great to have you with us today.
Hi, Roberta. I am so thrilled, excited, and honored to be here with you this morning. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for reading the book. I really appreciate that. Yeah.
I asked her some questions, which before we started talking on air, that she said no people had ever asked her before, which amazed me, frankly, because I think they're pretty obvious questions. So we're gonna get into it today, and I think you're going to really enjoy this. Now, I mean, there's so many questions I'd like to ask you about. It's kind of the first one is probably not the first one I should ask, but it's about the thing in the woods. What was that about the thing in the woods? Did you just dream that? What was that? And kids around and they're naked. What was all of that about?
That's a really good question. By the time I remembered that, now going back to the post-traumatic stress symptoms, these are things and memories that just show up that you've completely blocked from your experience. So it was this,
girl.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. No, nobody really it's yeah, nobody really wanted to hear any of these things. And I was surprised by the experience as well. So if I may preface, yeah, that's like, wow, there was a part of me during this whole process that was just going, wow, this is really weird.
Yes.
This is really weird. My whole system is exploding into memories and experiences that I felt to be real coming through my body. I just re-experienced it. I could feel it. I could see it. I could tell you who was there. I could smell it. Like it came like a full-blown movie. By the time this experience in the woods presented itself to me during my healing journey, I was already adept at taking in that information, watching it happen, re-experiencing it, and then releasing it, because at the end of each experience, I would get an aha. Oh, this is why I'm messed up in this way. This is why I'm messed up in this way. And this is why these things happen to me. And this is why my life is such a freaking mess, right?
Right.
It was just a
Yeah.
mess. I was completely unable to function as a viable adult. So the thing in the woods, we used to go camping a lot. I am a child of the 60s, and we did a lot in nature up in the Pacific Northwest. My father was an avid camper, and I loved the woods and I loved nature. And that was a nurturing thing for me. But my parents also were involved in a very constrictive religious structure, church, so to speak. And so through this religious structure, they would go on camping trips as a group. These were my parents' cohorts, and we as children were there. Like, what? You're 9. Where are you going to go? You're going with your parents. And I'm just going to say that it feels, I could feel it. I could see the yellow tent. I could see my mother. I could see the pains on my wrist. I could feel myself awaken as if I had been drugged into some kind of stupor and then awakened into some kind of ritualistic experience. So all of these things came through my physical body, I'm going to say, intact. So at the end of the memory, once I get through remembering and re-experiencing the event, it's so nice to be able to call it an event at this point in time, instead of it has no trigger for me or power over me anymore. The aha that I got at the end of the event was the historical depression, meaning constriction of women, the female subservience to the male hierarchy at the time, like that historical construct, for lack of a better word. So, it sounds like a ritualistic religious experience. It was icky, it was awful. There were snakes, there were, fires, there were, these like, are you in Nashville? Are you in Tennessee? So, was it representational? Perhaps. It depends on what you believe to be true. What I chose to do was to feel that experience, release all of my ancestral history around the experience. Like these were things that were put upon me by my parents. I didn't make it up as a kid. I didn't go, oh, woohoo,
No, nobody would make that up.
Nobody would make that up. And the wonderful lady that was helping me with the energy work and the healing energy said that to me over and over and over again. You would not make that up. I believe you. And it's like, well, I'm feeling pretty crazy at the time,
Yeah.
because I'm like, what the what? This is just, so I chose to be what I termed Sanar, my spirit self, the wise, wonderful woman self that had these experiences, that came here to clean and clear those experiences for women to begin to step into their true power. And in order to do that, I kind of had to shovel my way through my own past. Whew.
I should say, after I asked that question, I was like, I got to ask if this was real. I should say that what the book does is to take your life,
Mhm,
really, as
mhm.
you came to understand, I'm kind of messed up. I've got to try to figure out how to unmess myself.
Yes.
And you found someone who would help, was able to help you to do that with the help of your spirit guide. Now, I hear a lot of questions about spirit guides, in part because I live with the close help of a spirit guide who is not as accommodating by far as your spirit guide.
Oh,
So you're very fortunate. Well, that's true. I'm sorry. I'm having a private discussion now with my spirit guide. He is wonderful. I love him to death, but he is more independent from me in his own life than
right,
yours is from you.
right.
And so many people ask me questions about spirit guides, and they would love to read your book, if only because they get to see a relationship work out very beautifully with a spirit guide. You know, with your spirit guide, you talk about their relationship quite a lot and very well. And but in any event, um, with the help of your spirit guide, this woman does help you to delve into your past, which is very buried, for reasons which are fairly obvious as we begin to see what your past has been like. And your past has basically messed you up quite a bit as an
Oh,
adult.
yes, I was a mess from beginning to end, inside and
Yeah.
out. Yes.
And my guide is now pointing out to me that I have no mess in my past, which is true. I have kind of had the opposite childhood from yours, in which, yes,
Yeah.
which is great. But then again, I have had a different life to live than you have had. There was no need for me to have had the kind of life you have had. And that's another thing for us to point out here. Everybody comes in with a different life plan. The life plan that I had involved these really wonderful model parents, unlike yours, I would really have to say, and no need to try to forget a lot of the things that were done to me. I had no need to. I was their fair-haired child for sure, and you know, probably should have unlearned some of that a lot sooner than I did because I thought I was the center of the universe much too long,
Are
rather
you
than
not?
no,
Yeah.
no. But I unlearned that
Yeah, yeah,
smoothly enough
yeah.
when I needed to.
Hmm.
Um, but I think people interested in learning about a relationship with a spirit guide would love to read your book, if only for that,
Right.
because the relationship you have with your spirit guide is quite wonderful. And we get to see it develop in the course of your also uncovering your past. So your spirit guide's very helpful in doing that.
As a
And
matter of fact, she directed the whole thing.
yes,
Her name is Ola, and she was a teacher to my friend Radha, who was the woman who was adept at energy work and working with energy. Ola taught her how to do that in her past, in her education in healing modalities. And Radha also had a degree in childhood counseling. She worked with children and with families, dysfunctional families. So she came as a beautiful woman. Ola spoke through her to me to help me unearth what was going on. So she would, every time we had a session, Ola would say, we're going to do this. I would just dive in and trust the process and trust
Yeah.
Ola and trust Radha because first of all, I didn't know how to say no. Second of all, I had asked for help
And you
shortly
really needed
before.
the help
Oh,
because of the
Lordy, I
things
was
that had happened in your childhood, not
yeah.
just because of your parents and the things they had done, but you were raped, you had all kinds of these horrible things happen as when you were a child. You were very young when these things happened to you.
Yes, and by uncovering those childhood experiences, I could clearly see as an adult how, that rape created that belief system, which created that behavior, which then created that marriage, which then created, that inability to make any money and that inability to, I was homeless for a while. I had nowhere to go. I was just like a tornado. I call it my Auntie M, the Wizard of Oz tornado. My house, I didn't feel like I had a home. I didn't feel like I had a purpose.
Yes.
I didn't feel like I had a self. All I was to be abused and mistreated.
And I think that reading your book also would make people empathize with many people who haven't had the opportunity to get the kind of help you were able to find for yourself and therefore clear this kind of an awful childhood and youth and develop the kind of life you now can live and help you now can give to other people because you were able to clear all of that.
Yes.
I mean, if you wonder why are there bag ladies, well, Exhibit A. Right. If people have not had that kind of help, they are, they have these screwed up pasts that have put them in a position where they don't know who they are or why they are the way they are. They have no idea. You know,
Yes.
they're lost. There are lost people in
Yes.
the world who cannot begin to find themselves. And we need to have a lot more empathy for those people.
Thank you
I
for
think
saying that. Yes, I wanted people to take this story, which it is a story. It's a real story. It really
it's a
happened,
true story.
and it's a true story. And, take it. I wanted them to bump up against the story. Like I wanted them to fall in love with this little girl who came in, ready to be love and light,
You're
and
2 years
then
old and you love everything, and your father throws you against the wall and nearly kills you. Well, okay, there's a start.
yep. And that was where I got my first consciousness of, oh, I'm not a body. There's a rag doll on the floor and my daddy's on the floor and I don't understand this. But that was my first serious abuse. And that was my first gift in discovering how to hold on to that little piece of myself, regardless of what was going on around me. Does that make sense? Like I took that little girl and tucked her away. So because the belief structure that you make at the age of 2 is like, ooh, daddy's scary. I can't be me. Just shut myself away
But you're in
and
the download phase. During everything that happens to you
yes,
below the age of five and a half
5.
or thereabouts is is truth, and you
Yes.
just download it.
Yep.
And the things that were happening to you during all that time, if they were crazy things, you were learning that life is crazy.
Yes.
And that, over and over again, my dear, I compared my life to yours. All the things that had happened to me were joy and life in a pony. That's everything that happened to me.
Yay.
And, I mean,
Mhm.
it was
And
exactly
what I've
opposite
and what
of
I've
your life.
noticed when I get to meet lovely people like you is that what a clear channel then you are for love and joy and beauty. Like, like we get to bump up against you and go, there is a reality that is wonderful that we can have and we can be, even though we have all of these past experiences clouding our memory and fogging up, our vision and our ability to think for ourselves. But it's like, bless
I'm
you.
sorry. Except I did get colds. No,
Pardon me?
but it is true.
Hmm.
I mean, I never heard anyone shout at me. No one ever struck me. We went to church every Sunday. It
Mm.
was, I mean, it was
Mm.
like I didn't know there was anything like what happened to you.
Thank
And
goodness. Yeah.
see, every child deserves a perfect life
Yes.
in the country with a
Yes.
pony, which I also had.
Hmm.
And so, um, I I read your book with horror when I began to see all the things, which is why the thing in the woods, which I wasn't even sure about how old you were then. I don't think I was clear about that.
Right.
But you had a mother, and your mother was telling you,
Be
you have
brave.
to do this, dear. Everything. And
Be
I thought, oh,
brave. Just be brave.
keep right over that. Oh, darn.
Woo!
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And may I say the gift of the gift of going through it all. Like, yes, going through it all is horrible and just horrific. It was not fun. When it happened, I blocked no memory of it. And it wasn't fun as an adult to dive back into that and clear it out. But every time I dove in, I found a little piece of myself that had been hidden away. And I got to bring that in. And Ola directed, how to get rid of the past, how to let go of things I'd been holding on to, and then how to self nurture myself so that I could begin to be Sanar. Thus I was born Linda. The little girl's name was Linda.
Right.
And Linda in Spanish means beautiful, which is why I named my play Beautiful. And in the play, one woman show, musical drama, the angels would sing to Beautiful to tell her she's beautiful and strong. And someday
Yeah.
she'll find out why these things are happening. Meanwhile, Linda, little Beautiful, is like going, I'm just going crazy here with my mind and I'm doing what I
The
can
thought that you
do.
even had to block these things from your mind is
Yeah.
itself horrifying.
Oh, okay. See, I'm like, I was glad I did. Yeah, it's a
But when you think
horrible
about it, it's
experience.
fundamentally self-preservation
Yes,
that
ma'am.
made it necessary for a small child, you needed to do that.
Yes. Oh, yes. It kept me safe and it kept me alive, quote unquote,
No,
until I was
that's,
able to take care of it. Yeah.
but to me, that was very interesting. Part of what was so interesting about your book was that I was learning as I went along that that's what people do. And I thought, well, isn't that wonderful that little children do that? A small child will block these things and make the best of it. This is the only life that child has. He needs to or she needs to block that stuff.
Yes.
That's good. It's kind of reassuring. You know, life is going to seem better in retrospect than, but on the other hand, what's negative is you're afraid of things or you're unhappy about things and you don't know why. That's kind of awful.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. There's a real sense of disempowerment, of a
Yeah,
longing for,
yeah, yeah, yep.
yeah, who am I and where do I belong and you know, why don't
Well,
people like me?
people you could help might be people who have um, who are frightened or limited or feeling in some way about their past. And you might be able to help them to uncover these things.
I would be happy to, because in the uncovering and in the having somebody safe and strong and someone who has been through it, I remember very clearly looking for a therapist. This was in the 80s. This was a long time a long time ago. And in the 80s we didn't have trauma therapists. We didn't
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
we didn't have people who were adept at dealing with this situation. So when I finally found, I could tell if a therapist had read a book about PTSD and about sexual abuse and that kind of trauma. And I didn't want to talk to that person because it's like, if you don't get it, I don't want to talk to you. That's not a safe space. You're just going to be like everybody else and tell me what I'm doing wrong and how you think I should fix it. Right.
And you
So,
probably would say, "Oh, you didn't really have that happen." That
oh
person,
yeah. Oh gosh. My parents said that
yeah,
they
yeah.
pulled the family to the parents. I actually approached my parents and said, I'm having these experiences. Would you be willing to go to counseling with me or help me in some way?
Oh,
And
yeah.
their response was to gather the family and tell them I was crazy and say,
Yeah,
we
you
can't.
said that in the book. Oh, gee.
And it's like, oh, like this was nothing new in my experience, but I was reaching out. So I did find a therapist that was very, that just got it. She never shared her past experiences, but I knew that when I was sharing my experiences, she was, she was there in wisdom and in strength and in the ability to handle my whatever I was going through. So yeah.
Oh, but you said it was sort of like you could tell when one of these memories was coming back. It was sort of like it it was like almost like you were getting the flu or something, and then
Yes. Yes. So going back to step one, I had a meltdown at a stoplight in Phoenix,
I
Arizona.
remember. Yeah.
Just a complete meltdown. And I just called out to God, like there is something wrong with me. Oh my, show me what's wrong with me, I think is what I said. I mean, I was just like frantic. And of course the light turned green and no, a big booming voice didn't come down and say, "You are wonderful and strong. You will make it through." I was like, the light turned green. It was still
Oh,
109. I still, had my son in the back of my car trying to figure out what is my problem. But that was the apex of my healing journey. I was led to sing at a luncheon for a beautiful lady. And this lady came and said, I want you to come sing at my church. And I said, oh, I don't do churches. I don't know why I said that. Me and God were like, no, whatever I had going on in religion, I was totally shut down. And she said, no, 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 you'll like this one. And I was like, well, I was a poor, broke, single mother musician. A church gig is a good gig. And I needed the money. And I knew church music and I knew the construct and I knew every hymn in the world, all the verses. So I said, well, I'll come and play, every other week. Well, pretty soon it became a community for me. And that was where I met Radha, and Radha and I became friends. And that's where I met Ola. And that's where the energy work and the healing
isn't that
began.
wonderful? Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me because that Sedona is literally where ley lines cross. You know that.
Yes.
So the energy, that spiritual energy, is especially intense right there. So
Yes.
you were led to be there. That was not an accident at all that you ended up in Sedona.
And I love that. Yes, yes, yes. And I was telling Sam that, someday I'm going to write a country song entitled, it's called Phoenix for a reason, the Phoenix rising from the ashes,
Right. Oh my God,
it's like,
yes.
isn't that great?
Yeah.
Someday it's got to be a country song though.
Yeah, yeah, of
But yeah,
course.
I love the opportunity of the hindsight and being able to see how, I didn't say, oh, I need to play piano in a church. Like, that's the last thing I would say. But noticing how I was led and guided and experiences started coming to me. And with
You may
Rod
not
and
be simpatico with God, but I think God
oh,
is
we're fine
simpatico
now.
with
I'm like, oh
you.
no, we're good now. It was like,
Right.
and bringing that back to that memory of being, because of my parents' religious experiences and the camping trips in the woods and the abuse, through that experience, that I was able to see that and go, oh, this is just another, the memories didn't come linearly. They didn't, the 2-year-old memory, the first near death experience, didn't come first. It actually came last, because to me, that was the most intense and
Right.
unbelievable, that the most, I could believe this, I could believe that, I could believe, like, okay, got it, I remember that. This is a college thing. I'm 16, got it. They sent me back, fine. I don't have any control over my life anyway, and then going back to age 9 and going, oh, I saw the light. I didn't go to the light. I came back because I was afraid. Have I been able to follow through on anything for 30, 40 years? No. No. Do I just go, oh, this is how this is all I'm good for, is for people to abuse. And the 2-year-old experience was like, I really didn't want to believe that my daddy did that to
Oh my
me.
goodness, that's
I
so
didn't know.
shattering. Yes.
Yeah, but that was the last memory that came. So
Right.
the meandering and the wandering and the guiding, was so beautiful. And thus, thank you, Ola. Thank you, God. Thank you, Radha. Thank you, all of these divine presences that are around us in a positive light. Thank you, Roberta, for your bright and shining light and your incredible wisdom, and I love the title of your books. I was looking at your website and all I saw was fun, 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 fun. And so, so back to the getting the flu and it being a memory. At first I needed someone to help me remember. I needed someone to give me light, give me
Right.
love,
Right.
give
Right.
me safety, give me support. Because that little part of my brain's going, this is really weird. This is really weird. This is really weird. Wow, look at that. That's really weird. But it started to make sense, because it's like, oh, that experience, I felt it. I was rolling on the floor, screaming, crying, whatever happened. Um, I re-experienced it as an adult, but I was in the 7-year-old body, the 6-year-old body, whatever. That just exploded from within me. My brain's going, wow, this is really weird. But once I went through that experience, then I got an aha. Oh, that's why. And then it stopped.
Right.
And then we could release the energy, and then good stuff could come in. So I became adept at the process. And so finally, it feels like finally, but there came a point in time where I didn't have to go to Radha and have a session with Ola. I started to feel fuzzy and just unable to function, like I was having the flu, when you can't see and you can't eat, you can't feel, you can't think. And I would I was like, oh, a memory is coming. I would lay down in my bed. I would put my hand on something like metal or tangible, something hard and physical, because it feels very otherworldly
Right.
when I'm going through this. And I would tell myself, well, I didn't die. This didn't kill me, right? So I'm still here. So obviously, it didn't kill me. And so I could let the memory come up. And then, of course, what happened? I remembered dying. Like, oh, man. Like, are you kidding me? My body's just laying there. It's not breathing. There's no Nothing. The body is dead. And again, my head's going, ah, dude, like really, really. And it just laid there for a while. And then I breathed back into it and went, okay, I did die. Some of the professionals are like, there really is no death. There is an extension of the energy and of the divine light, godness, whatever we want to call it, be it, have it. And so then I could finish the process on my own. And then I could think clearly again. And she lived happily ever after, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Girl. So I love your books, fun, fun, fun.
Well,
I,
actually, the titles didn't come from me. They came from the people who've been through the process.
oh,
I
okay.
never thought of those titles. Yeah.
You did it? Oh, yeah, they're great. So the act of dying is not fun. It's really stressful to
But
actually exit the physical being.
well,
But
it is from this perspective, but from the
mhm,
perspective going through it, of the person going through it, not at
not
all.
at all. But afterwards, there's a very lightness of being and a very joyful.
Oh, they're happy.
Yeah, we are.
Just
Like,
let them go. Yeah.
this is what my father was so annoyed at. I was a lot of fun, and very joyful 2-year old, very joyful child-ish. When Jesus would say, you must become like a child, people say, oh, I don't want to be childish. And it's like, no, he's not talking about being childish and egocentric. He's talking about being clean and pure and divine and light and be the beautiful essence that you are.
You have to give
The
up the ego.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what Ola told me. And so I tried and tried and tried to give up the ego. And it wasn't until Sanar, the strong spirit, promised Linda, the little girl, I would tell her story. Would she go? Because to me, she was the identity of all of the bad stuff that happened to her, all of the trauma. She wasn't bad, but what happened to her was bad. And she was the victim, and I didn't want to be a victim. So I took on the name Sanar and promised Linda that I would tell her story. And then she said, okay, see ya. And then that ego was able to go. And then Sanar needed to develop an identity as well.
But then when your father was dying, you had to grow quite a bit.
I did. I had to step into truly being Sanar and truly, seeing him on his deathbed and seeing him as an old, withered, ill, scared man. And my little ego went, if I did what you did and I believed what you believed, then I would be afraid to die too, you know. And then I just had great compassion for him. He didn't do these things because I was bad. He did these things because they were done to him. It was an ancestral event. He had no choice in his behavior. My mother had no choice in her behavior. They didn't know any better. And it was at that apex that I was able to then see him come in, bring in angels. I would ask him if he wanted me to bring in angels, and he would nod his head. And so I felt like this was the best way that I could help and assist him. We started with one, and then the next day I would come in and bring in a couple more, and pretty soon we had a pretty hefty crowd of angels around him to forgive him. He had to forgive himself as well. There's a part of his soul that knew this was not the best way to, not the way we probably really wanted things to go, and called in his mom when it was time for him to go, and called in Seraphim and told him that we would always remember him, always remember the good parts, and honored his life and honored his struggles and honored his path and released him from having to hold on to that anymore. And he passed very shortly after that. So it was,
When
huh?
when you had when you had so much you had needed to forgive, you were able to forgive him then.
Yeah. Because I had done my work. I had, a year before that, maybe not. But at that point in time, I my experience has been life provides you with opportunities to step into who are you going to be when this opportunity presents itself. Who are you really going to be? And that was an opportunity for me to step into being Sanar. And that was one of the big reasons I changed my name completely, because I did not want to be identified with that pattern. I wanted to be identified with the healer, the person, the spirit that came here to assist in the stopping of that ancestral energy, that ancestral experience.
And then eventually when your mother also transitioned, you could do that with her as well.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. It was a blessing and an honor to honor their lives. Like, oh my goodness. Yeah, they did this to me and I whined about it for 20, 30 years, you know. And then once you get through it and over it and you see, wow, how I jokingly say I have a brother and he used to say, sucks being you. And I used to take offense to that. But then I saw the wisdom in his ability to detach from someone else's negativity, someone else's anger, someone else. I mean, he was raised by those people as well. And I looked at my parents individually and thought, wow, how miserable they had to have been to be having those experiences, whatever happened to them before, whatever that was going on, and kind of like, wow, sucks being you. I'm so sorry. I could have compassion for their life's journey. And it was just a blessing to see them let it go and transition back home or wherever they needed to be, and to do their own personal healing and see what happens next for everybody.
Oh my dear, I am so sorry to say this, but we have
We've run out of time.
over our time.
I'm so sorry. I can stop. You are
No,
so
no.
wonderful. Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Well, you just stay there, my dear, because I'm just
Okay.
going to have to say a few things to our wonderful listeners and then I'll come right back. But
Okay.
thank you so much. What do you want people to take away from today, from what we've talked about?
Oh, wow. I'm feeling tears. I want them to take away that there is so much love available to them that they can let go of whatever it is they've been holding on to for so long and allow themselves to relax into love.
Relax into love. That is so much the theme. Oh, bless you, my
Oh,
dear.
great. Oh, thank you. Bless you. Bless you for creating this opportunity. I'm so grateful.
Big hug, my darling. Everyone, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you get that and all its implications, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Happy Alley, who's the author of The Intuitive Bible, How and Why to Tap into Your Inner Wisdom. Happy has a BA degree in psychology from UCLA, and he calls himself a prophetic dreamer, a certified master NLP practitioner, and clinical hypnotherapist, and the host of the Happy Insight podcast. Happy's exploration of the metaphysical I can't say this word ever. The metaphysical disciplines after near-death experience inspired an awakening in him, and now he teaches and shares globally the subconscious manifestation methodology that he created. And you can find him online at happyinsights.net. And I'm just guessing here, I'm spitballing this. My guess is we're going to find that these are happy insights, probably, right? Please join us next week, and we're all going to find out together. And this week, of course, we've been visiting with Sanar Alixandyr. She's an empowerment coach with a degree in education and a very diverse background, and she has an interesting background, a lot of which she had to rediscover because her mind had blocked it. Over the past 30 years plus, she has supported herself as a professional musician, director, composer, teacher, and actress. And her passion is being of service to the greater vision of the transformation and evolution of women in the world. And toward that end, she offers her own story in her book, which is called Becoming Sanar, From Shadow to Light, A Journey of Self-Discovery. I love this book. I just literally finished reading it as we went on air today. She and I had our conversation as I had just finished that story. And that's why it was very fresh in my mind. I think it's a wonderful book, especially for people who have had somewhat traumatic pasts and want to kind of get clarity on them, because it's written just as if it were a novel, but it's a real woman's story. And it's, I think, a very empowering story for anybody who feels that they have a lot to forgive. I mean, to watch her go through that horrible, really, beginning of her life, get clarity, and then begin to forgive all the things she had to forgive. It's really beautiful. And as you know, our great friend Craig Hogan is the president and guru of Secret Reality Online, and that's your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. Just go to secretreality.com and learn what your life is going to be forevermore, because you don't have a choice in the matter. You're always going to be alive, so you may as well make the best of it. And of course, teachingsbyjesus.com is your best resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher of them all, Master Jesus. Now it really is his turn. And that's about all the time we have. So this has been Secret Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being. And this is the most important fact of all. In this entire universe, you in particular, most of all, are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.